Welcome to those present in the gallery and staff and councillors to this special meeting of council on 26th of June 2024 at 6 p.m. I declare this meeting open. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to elders past and present and their descendants. I'd just like to read the disclaimer. The terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted on the door as you enter. And please ensure that you have read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. Tonight we have councillors in attendance. Councillor Podovnik has not yet arrived. We have the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Johnson, attending electronically, and Councillor Singh. We have staff in attendance, and at this point, Councillor Singh is not yet online, but we'll let you know if he joins us. We have a nil leave of absence and nil apologies tonight. If there is any leave of absence forms, please hand them up to the front to the CEO. Tonight we have nil disclosures of interest. Are there any councillors that need to submit a declaration of interest form? If there are, could you please fill out the form and hand that up to the CEO? Move on to part 5, public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996, and all questions will be published in the minutes of this meeting. 5.1, questions relating to reports contained in the agenda, and 5.1.1, questions of which due notice has been given. There were nil. We move to 5.1.2, questions without due notice. We don't have anyone in the gallery this evening, but I will ask if there's any member of the public wishing to ask a question on an item on the agenda, if there is anyone out there, but I don't think we have anyone tonight. And we have nil deputations. So move on to part 7, reports. 7.1.1 is the adoption of the corporate business plan for 2024-25 to 2027/2028. And this has been withdrawn for an absolute majority vote. I'll ask for a motion to move the officer's recommendation. Councillor Jones, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Miles, thank you. I'll ask the mover to speak to the motion. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor Catalano? Yes. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I won't say anything, thank you, it's all there.
Thank you. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak as seconder? Thank you. Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Yes, well, we've got a lot of new infographics, but it's business as usual. And that is not what people and ratepayers and residents and everybody out there is telling me they want. I think the most glaring thing, and I'm even more convinced day by day, that the Midland Strategic Centre-centric approach, and I know it's all run by the strategic plan, but we've got a big mistake here with this constant focus on Midland as a strategic centre. It clearly isn't going to be that in the future. And no amount of money that you throw at it is going to make it. It's all going to be happening in Ellenbrook, and it's time all of our corporate documents reflected that. So, you know, I can't say much more than that, but I think the focus is completely wrong. I think it's time we actually started to actually look at the City of Swan as it is, not as we like to think it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Does anyone like to speak for the motion? Does no one like to speak for? Does anyone like to speak against the motion? If there's not, I'll ask the mover for the right of reply. Councillor Jones?
I'll just put it to the vote, thank you.
Thank you. Those in favour? Councillor Aringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson and myself. And those against? Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Knight and Councillor Howlett. Oh, sorry, my apologies, and Councillor Johnson. So that's carried. 8-5. Thank you. And we move on to 7.2.1, adoption of the annual budget 2024-25. Councillor Bowman, if you could please read out your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I move that Council resolves to 1, adopt the officer's recommendation, 2, establish a new Ellenbrook District Open Space Synthetic Surface Replacement Reserve account for the purpose to fund the renewal and placement of the sports playing field synthetic surface located at the Ellenbrook District Open Space, and 3, amend note 9A and B of the 2024-25 annual budget to include the Ellenbrook District Open Space Synthetic Surface Replacement Reserve account. And Madam Mayor, the reason for my motion is 1, the draft 2024-25 budget includes the establishment of a new reserve account to fund the renewal or replacement of the synthetic hockey surface at Dayton District Open Space. It would be a good asset management to establish a similar reserve account for the specific purpose to hold funds to be used for the future renewal and replacement of the Ellenbrook District Open Space sports playing field synthetic surface, and 2, in accordance with section 611 of the Act, where a local government wishes to set money aside for the use for a purpose in a future financial year, is establish and maintain a reserve account for each such purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. And I'll ask for a seconder. Councillor Zanino. Councillor Bowman, is there anyone against? Councillor Catalano, do you wish to debate it? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I would first like to thank the CEO and all the City of Swan staff that are involved or have been involved in putting this budget together. As a councillor, the amount of involvement and input we've had in what is before us tonight is significant. I think you would all concur that we now have a very detailed and thorough budget process at Swan. I fully agree with comments that Councillor Johnson has previously made, and that is, an annual budget is the most important decision that we make. Throughout this process, like many of you, I've asked numerous questions. I've put forward my comments and provided feedback when asked, and even at times when I wasn't. And what I see before us tonight is a responsible budget for not only today's ratepayers, but also for our ratepayers of tomorrow. Councillors, it has been a long and extremely detailed process from the time we started the first budget workshop way back on the 31st of January, followed by 5 more budget workshops. Then we set, advertised, adopted, followed by ministerial approval of the rate and the dollar, and now tonight we have before us the finalisation of hard work, time and commitment from many, many City of Swan staff, but also councillors. If you're thinking about not supporting the motion before you at present, let me remind you that with the exception of Councillor Henderson, no other councillor put forward a request for any other rate in the dollar at the previous special meeting on the 29th of April. And the run sheet for this meeting provides councillors relevant information and confirms that. Councillors, you would have also been included on email, well, lots of emails from and between Councillor Johnson and the CEO, whereby he wants to defer the adoption of the annual budget to a future special meeting. The outcome of one of his motions would have been an average increase to UV ratepayers in Herne Hill of 31%, Gidgagana 28%.
Point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. If you could just resume your seat for a moment. Councillor Johnson. What is your point?
That's not the motion. That's not the motion we're debating.
Councillor Johnson, if you
relevance.
could give me the reference, please, and the page so that councillors can follow along.
Yeah, so it's relevance, basically.
No, what is the page number and the reference, please, to the local meeting procedural law, please? If you're unable to, then I'll move on.
Well,
Bowman, you have no point of order, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Bowman, if you could continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In fact, the average increase across the entire City of Swan for UV ratepayers would have been 15.69%, as outlined on page 53 of the agenda special council meeting 29th of 4th, 24. Councillors, I've been told previously that I want
Point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. If you could resume your seat. Councillor Johnson, if you could give me...
Yeah, section 7.2. 1C, a speaker's remarks not being relevant to the motion being debated.
I rule you have no point of order. This is relevant. It's talking about the item that we're discussing currently at the moment. Thank you. I rule that you have no point of order. Councillor Bowman, if you could continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors have been told previously if I want an alternative budget, I need to start early, start in February. Also, the budget has to be finalised and settled well before the council meeting. Actually, councillors, I know that all councillors who are on council in 2022 are also aware of this, as it was actually Councillor Johnson that reminded us of this very point. Councillors, before us tonight is a responsible budget that we must consider. We should not be considering delaying this process. Actually, councillors, there are some serious issues associated with any delay to adopting the annual budget, including trading. The city's unrestricted cash reserves are insufficient to sustain more than several weeks of regular expenditure. Revenue. The loss of interest income will need a corresponding reduction in expenditure.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. That's your 3 minutes.
I move for an extension of 2 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Hendon. Is anyone against? Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Catalano. Those in favour of a 2-minute extension? Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor... Oops, start again. Councillor Dawn, Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Prodovnik, and myself. And those against, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight, and Councillor Howlett, and Councillor Johnson. So it's carried.
Revenue. The loss of interest income would need a corresponding reduction in expenditure, and this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the rate notice, my understanding is local governments use zip form for their rate notices, and they have agreed production date. If Swan misses their time slot, then we also delay issuing and have to adopt new dates for interim rates. Councillors, our budget is nudging close to $250 million, and this is a massive budget. And we all know that a budget like this cannot be determined by homemade spreadsheets or other means. A small change in one part can have in other areas significant consequences. A small reduction of 1 or 2% in a particular service may seem insignificant, but what are the impacts? Mowing the verges even less frequently, having to wait longer for phones to be answered, or not consulting as much with our community could be just some of the outcomes, which we no doubt we would all agree are not acceptable. The amount of finance modelling that is required and undertaken is very detailed, and the information we provide at times is significant. And even with my background in accounting and my many years' experience in local government finances, I am the first to admit that I've needed to read the information provided more than once and taken time to fully absorb the huge amount of information we are provided. Councillors, we all know that any suggestion to cut a budgeted amount that is, for example, funded from reserves or DCP or park grant funded is not a muni saving. And we need to be extremely careful if anyone suggests cutting these types of projects, as the result is our community misses out. Any changes to council that councillors wanted should have been incorporated into the budget over the preceding 4 to 5 months. Councillors, when considering the budget before us, it should not be about our personal views. It's not about what we like and don't like, as I will be the first to say that I personally don't like everything that's included, and I personally don't like some things that are not included, but it's about undertaking our legislative roles. Let's not forget that we all agreed at the start of the budget workshop that the general direction was there was to be no cuts or any reduction to any of the current services, and the budget before us tonight provides for this. Staff have provided what we have requested.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. That was your 2-minute extension. I'll ask Councillor Zanino, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I rise to support Councillor Bowman, and I concur with Councillor Bowman's comments. Just a quick couple of things. As far as I am concerned, as a councillor with the City of Swan, I think that as councillors, everyone has been given all the relevant information, and we've given more than ample time to deal with everything coming up with the budget. So if anyone wanted to make any changes, if they needed any clarifications, the opportunity has been there. The officers have offered their time at any time to go there, and they could speak one-on-one, and I can assure you that tonight is not the time to jump up and try to make changes. Because anyone trying to make changes at this time, at the 11th hour, is purely basically saying, I've been lazy, I haven't taken due notice or care and I've let it lapse. So now, oh geez, I've got to rush in and try to make some changes. Now is not the time to make changes. Tonight, if you're not happy, yeah, quite vote against it. But now is not the time to do that sort of thing. And I stress that every councillor in this room should be supporting the motion that's been put before us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanino. I'll ask, is there anyone against the motion? Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Well, contrary to the implication, I haven't been lazy and I've read everything that's come past me. And I've made actually quite a lot of suggestions about how we could get to a 0% rate increase.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
If you could just resume your seat, please, Councillor
7.2, false and
Catalano.
misleading information. I have in front of me a list of those items that Councillor Catalano put
If
forward.
you could just, if you could just slow down for a moment so everyone can follow along as well. It's 7.2.
Subsection F, false or misleading information.
Just one moment. 7.2F. Presentation of false or misleading information, which was?
In front of me is the list of projects that Councillor Catalano put forward, which were suggested to be $12.7 million. They are not all from municipal, and as proven by the email from the Director of Corporate Services, only 34% of them are actually funded from, 34.03,149% of them are funded from municipal savings, which would not result in a 0% rate increase.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. So you have a point of order. Councillor Catalano,
Well,
if you
that
could
is
please-
actually not correct.
If you
and
could
shouldn't-
please-
and you need to go back to the facts
Councillor
to
Catalano.
find that out. No, it's not correct. I mean, I did check through and I know what municipal... I mean, we're talking about reserve trust. That reserve trust, when we're talking about Midland Oval...
Councillor
has been-
Catalano, if you could resume your seat, please. So I just ruled, Councillor Bowman, that you had a point of order. Councillor Catalano, there was some information that was given from Councillor Bowman, and he did read out the information that was given to him from staff. So whether there's a discrepancy between your interpretation and his, he has read out that he has the list of things that you have inquired about with staff. Can you please keep it to the relevant information, please?
Okay, so when funding or when spending comes out of reserve trust, we're not talking about developer contributions. We are talking about ratepayers' money. It is a reserve trust. It's a City of Swan own reserve trust. And that is what
Point
I
of order,
objected
Madam
to.
Item
Just resume yourself,
7.2.
Councillor Catalano.
7.2F, false or misleading information. I do not understand or believe that we have a reserve trust. We have reserves. We may have trusts. Not too many local governments have trusts, but we don't have a reserve trust.
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. We have reserve accounts, which are reserve funds. We have some trust funds separate, but they're holding bonds, etc. But they are not reserve accounts.
Right.
They are not ratepayers' funds to be used. They are held in trust for a particular purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. So I rule you did have a point of order. Councillor Catalano.
I'm talking about City of Swan ratepayers' money. And that's what I'm referring to. And that's what I was talking about previously. And that's what I'm talking about now. And I'm talking about particularly my opposition to $7 million being spent on Midland Oval again this year. I mean, how much more money is going to go into that project? And what a waste. You know, people in Altone are screaming for some money to be spent in that suburb. But no, what we've got is 7% of our rates effectively being spent on Midland Oval again. And for the
Point of order,
next
Madam
2
Mayor.
years...
Councillor Catalano, if you could please resume your seat.
7.2F, false or misleading information. If $7 million, according to Catalano, is being spent on Midland Oval, that is not the percentage of rates that she quoted.
Get some clarification, please, Mr. CEO, through Mr. Travascus.
Sorry, through the chair, can you repeat the query?
Councillor Bowman.
Councillor Catalano alleges that $7 million is being spent on Midland Oval this year, and then said that was a certain percentage of the rates, and I'm saying that is false or misleading because that percentage was not $7 million.
The actual expenditure at Midland Oval this year, my understanding is we haven't spent $7 million. I'd have to check the percentage to confirm
Just one moment.
that answer, but I don't
Thank
have
you,
it at
Mr
hand.
Trebaskus. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I take your point of order. Thank you. To Councillor Catalano.
We're not talking about money spent. We're talking about
Councillor
money
Catalano,
that's going to be spent next
Just
year.
one moment. The words that you used have been picked up in a point of order and they've been clarified through staff. So if you are going to use an example of money that's been spent, it needs to be specific to the wording. Thank you. If
Specific
you'd like
to the
continue,
budget,
please.
which is what we're talking about. I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about next year because this is about the budget. $7 million for Midland Oval next year, and for the 2 years after that, nearly another $9 million. Now, if that's not if the spending for next year is not 7% of the rates budget, of the budget that we're collecting in rates, it's pretty damn close. It's pretty close. And maybe Mr Trebaskus can tell us exactly how much it is. And then, the 2 years after that, another nearly $9 million. Altogether, that's $16 million for Midland Oval. I mean, you know, Midland, it is not going to be the great, goose that laid the golden egg. Everything that seems to be done here just makes it worse. So, no, I cannot support $7 million for Midland Oval. I just cannot. And I cannot support nearly $9 million borrowed 2 years after that, that's in this budget, and for Midland Oval as well. And in terms of in respect of the synthetic surface for the Oval, I have a real problem with synthetic surfaces, and I'm sorry, I think in the future you're going to find that they'll be outlawed because the environmental cost of that is actually ridiculous, and we've got to find other solutions. You know, what about storage? Stormwater storage and actually using that. I mean, synthetic surfaces are not going to be the future for our sporting fields. So I can't support it at all, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Does anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to start off by reminding all councillors of the number of budget workshops we've attended to reach this point. Councillors, we were elected to represent all ratepayers in a responsible way, not in an irresponsible way. By not increasing the rates, we simply ensure that our children and grandchildren will have to pay for our irresponsible decisions. I don't wish to leave that legacy. We need to adopt this responsible budget tonight. We are all finding it increasingly difficult, more difficult to pay our mortgages and bills. However, for less than the price of a coffee a week, do we want to place our kids in the above situation? Therefore, all councillors, I believe it's in the interest of all the public to act responsibly and endorse this budget tonight. Please remember that out of the three government bodies, federal, state and local, the local government collects the least amount of taxes or rates, however provides the most services. So in the interest of all our ratepayers, please vote in favour of Councillor Bowman's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Does anyone like to speak against the motion? Does anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Johnson, you had your hand up, but I'm not sure where you called for or against.
Speaking against.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The debate tonight almost appears to be opposing the various alternate motions and foreshadowed motions that I've sent out. Councillors, I'm opposing the imposition of this rate, as I believe our ratepayers and community do not want a rate rise. Last year, it was very clear our voters did not want a rate rise. And contrary to something that was said tonight, I've worked hard on behalf of our residents, ratepayers and electors to prepare a motion for a 0% rate rise. I've responded to all the advice I've been given. I think my motion should be moved and put to the vote, but it won't be, and that will disappoint a lot of people. I'll therefore be voting against the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I'll ask, is anyone for the motion? Councillor Ringo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, a lot has been said tonight, and I won't repeat all of them, but I think I'll just like to say, you know, just like Councillor Bowman said, this is a responsible budget. And I know we might disagree about this one, but I will repeat it again. Councillors, this is a very responsible budget. I heard from another councillor that said, you know, last year we had a 0% rate rise. Well, that was last year's councillors. This is a different year. Some of us councillors have been through all 6 budget workshops. At the last budget workshop, some councillors asked for a modelling of cost-cutting measures. And what would that look like? And for those who attended the last budget workshop will realise that there was no, in my opinion, cost savings, but rather cutting important city resources that is needed for the city to be able to deliver for our communities. I would like to remind councillors that apart from Councillor Henderson, just like Councillor Bowman said, no any other councillor put in an alternative motion about a 0 rate rise. None. Councillors, what does that say? If you wanted a zero rate increase, just like some councillors here campaigned for, you had the opportunity to do so 3 months ago, not a week before council is due to adopt a budget. That is not responsible. To prove my point that no councillors have put in an alternative motion for a 0 rate increase, all you must do is look up the special council meeting on the 29th of April 2024. I have a copy here if any of the councillors would like to have a look of it and you know, use it as a reminder that carrying on about a 0 rate rise at the last minute is playing politics and is just simply unrealistic. Councillors, this is why we need to adopt tonight's budget, and I say support Councillor Bowman's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ringo. I'll ask last call. Was anyone against the motion? If not, I'll put right of reply. Oh, sorry, Councillor Henderson.
We've got to go back forward again.
Is anyone for the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Councillors, we've gone through a very extensive process. That extensive process started right back in the early parts of the year on January the 31st, right through to June 19th. And then that process, we've all had an opportunity to have our say, to put our views, to look for savings, to in fact say, okay, what does our community say that it wants? Well, I think most of us did that pretty well. But I do take one point. Councillor Catalano did say that she'd been kept herself informed. Well, we had a briefing on the budget on April the 17th. No apology, absent. June 19th, no apology, absent. So the things that were said in that meeting obviously weren't heard. What I want to make is, councillors, that the process is about listening, it's about discussing, it's about finding out what the community wants. Can I just take another point, and that is that there was a proposal to reduce our parks and reserves maintenance by nearly $250,000. Well, people wouldn't be too happy about that. There was a proposal to reduce the security services. Well, that's under contract, so that's a bit of a problem. There was a proposal on communications and engagement to reduce another $250,000 odd. Does that mean we don't consult with our community by that amount of money? So we have a responsibility to listen to everyone. And those proposals clearly were not accepted by all of us, and we had to move on. But today, the May inflation figures were released. 4%, it's risen, right? 4%. We're bringing down a rate of 3.5%. We're already 0.5% behind the 8 ball, councillors. 0.5% behind the 8 ball. So that makes it hard. That makes it really hard for us to provide services. And considering 0.5% in, $250,000 or whatever it is, it's $250 million. That's a fair amount of money. The point is that proposals to take things out of the budget that are already in train, proposals to remove a budget for a Balladura local service for the what do they call it, intergenerational playground or something. Those things were proposed as well. But here we are
Councillor
today.
Henderson,
My
that's
time is
your
up. I've got a
3
lot more to
minutes.
say, but I think that we need to support
you.
this budget.
I'll ask, is anyone against the motion? Is anyone for the motion? Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to quickly get up and echo the sentiments of my colleagues, Councillor Aringo and Bowman. I agree. I think this is a responsible and balanced budget, and I really want to reiterate my gratitude to all the hardworking staff here at the great city of Swan for their very, very hard work and attention to detail as they worked with the council to ensure that we continue to maintain the high level of services and infrastructure in our growing and diverse city, which it is a massive undertaking, and also to get to a rate position where we don't have to impose such a high rate increase like other local governments are doing, a very high increase in some of the other like-for-like councils. So it's good that we're trying to keep as much pressure off the family household budgets as we can. And I just want to say, yes, we had a really, really comprehensive process to develop this budget, and I want to thank the CEO and his team for making sure that the council was brought along that journey the whole way. And in those budgets, we had in those workshops, we had some very robust conversations on what we wanted to achieve through this budget coming up. And I'm very proud to have defended some things in the Whiteman ward that might have come under attack from some councillors who didn't think that was an appropriate use of funding. But, you know, this is what our role is to stand up for the people that got us here and elected us. And I'm very happy to support this budget in its form. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. I'll ask, is anyone against the motion? Is anyone for the motion? Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, councillors. Our ratepayers do not want a rate rise. Many of us here probably don't want a rate rise either. But as an elected member for the City of Swan, and I'm sure there are many councillors that will agree with me, it is my duty to understand the city's finances, to know what brings a budget together, to know what drives the foreseeable future for our city and the exceptionally complex and diverse growth council that it is. It is my duty to ensure the city can continue to operate in a responsible manner. The city for decades has been known as a stalwart. It has been a shining light. It has been an example of fiscal responsibility. Councils work within a regime of contradictions. We provide services within a legislative framework that requires elections, community engagement, and consultative decisions. And then sometimes we're asked why our operations aren't more efficient. The things and the flack that comes back at us in different areas is challenging, but we have a responsible budget in front of us. As local governments, we confront increasingly constrained funding environments. And, as Councillor Jones mentioned, we watch our share of the total tax decrease over decades, only for those financial struggles to be used as evidence that maybe we're not responsible stewards of money. The City of Swan is a damn good steward of our ratepayers' money. We continually absorb the ongoing transfer of costs, services and responsibilities from state and other aspects before being accused sometimes of scope creep and told to get back to basics. We're also mandated to make intergenerational decisions for our community on infrastructure and community facilities. And then we're rebuked for using intergenerational funding mechanisms. Councillors, we have a responsible budget. We have a budget that is going to see our city into the future. We have seen multiple 0% rate rises, and the consequences of those we may see in 2 or 5 or 10 or 15 years' time. We cannot afford another 0%. It is absolutely irresponsible to sow or not to sow.
to rape or not to rape? I ask you, councillors, this is a responsible budget and I urge you to support Councillor Bowman's motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. I'll ask, is anyone against the motion? No one against? I'll ask again, is there anyone for the motion? If there's neither, we'll put that right of reply. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, firstly, and it's probably just the expression, Councillor Bowman's motion. This is not Councillor Bowman's motion. Yes, I was the one that got up and moved it because I did a slight change. This is a motion that all of us have been involved in. All of us who went to the workshops, all of us that provided feedback. It is a motion that we have all been part of. Now, Madam Mayor, I've heard two things spoken against this motion. The first one was about the $7 million on the budget, and I'll take Councillor Catalano's word for it, that's on the budget. But Madam Mayor, having looked at Councillor Catalano's email on the 22nd of April, where she provides suggestions of savings, I don't see $7 million suggesting a take off. I do see $2.2 million on Midland Oval, which was roads and planning. Madam Mayor, the only other thing that I've heard against the motion was from Councillor Johnson about a 0% rate increase. And Madam Mayor, we have been told before, but I've got it also in front of me, the run sheet from the 29th of April, which, Madam Mayor, you would know, along with all other councillors, that when we have a run sheet, alternative motions that are presented and required 2 days beforehand or more are listed on there. I do not see, councillors, any alternative motion, and I've got my glasses on as well, that recommends a 0%. So, Madam Mayor, to speak against the motion because someone wants a 0% rate increase is not the correct way to do it, because that was on the 29th of April. That's what got advertised, agreed to, and authorised and approved by the Minister. We've heard a number of councillors tonight say responsible budget. It is a responsible budget, and like me, I expect most councillors don't like one or two things in there, may have liked a couple more things in their own wards. I know I would, but I also know that with those extra requests come more pressures on cutting other services or increasing rates. And I go back to what we all agreed to, all of us agreed to in the first budget workshop. And the general agreement was that we would not cut any services. This budget does not cut any services. It is a responsible budget, and I ask that councillors seriously think about what's best for the City of Swan ratepayers, both now and in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillors will now put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Oringo, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Miles, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Brodovnik. That's 8. And those against? Oh, sorry, myself. That would be 9. And those against, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Dawn, Councillor Knight, and Councillor Howlett. And Councillor Johnson, my apologies. So that's 9 to 5, and the motion is carried. And move to closure of the meeting. I thank everyone tonight for their attendance, staff and councillors. And being that there's no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:40. Thank you.